Okay, so we're going to do DEB 2017 Mock Paper question 6. Okay, so it reads P is equal to 2A plus C. Write A in terms of P and C. So we have to write A, this letter here, A, in terms of P and C. Okay, so that means you need to separate the A out and have the A on its own and everything else on the other side of the equal. So it's like a balancing act around this equal to sign. And we just need to move everything away from the A. Now, there's a 2 connected to it and there's a C added on. So the first thing I'm going to do is go for the C because it's added on. All right, and how do I remove a C? Well, I would subtract a C. Okay, so it's an added C. I will subtract a C. Now, in order to do that, you must do the same to the other side. So I can subtract a C from the other side as well. Now, so rewriting that becomes P minus C. Okay, because P minus C is equal to 2A plus C minus C. Well, they'll cancel, and you're just left with a 2A. Okay, so now I've almost got the A on its own, but I need to now get rid of the 2. Next thing I'll do to get rid of a 2A's is divide by a 2. Okay, so if I do it to the right, I must do it to the left. Okay, and now they will cancel, those A's, or those 2's, sorry, and I'll be left with A is equal to P minus C all over 2. Okay, hence find the value of A when P is equal to 5 and C is equal to 1/5. Okay, so what they're telling us is P is equal to 5 and C is equal to 1/5. And they want to know the value of this A. Okay, so how am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to sub in. Okay, so P is now becoming 5. Subtract the C, it's now becoming 1/5. Okay, and it all sits on top of 2. Now, I would simplify this top line next. 5 take away a 1/5 is 4 and 4/5, and it all sits on top of a 2. Okay, now I'll probably take my calculator out and do that, or I can you can do it using fractions. Okay, so this is 4 okay, we'll do it longhand. So 4 and 4/5 over 2 is the same thing as 4 by 5 is 20 plus the 4, we're getting 24 on top of 5. Okay, that turns into this all on top of 2. Okay, so this is a fraction divided by a number. Now you can flip and change. So fractions, it's a fraction divided by a number. Okay, you could write it out longhand in terms of divided by 2, but 2 is the same thing as 2 over 1. Okay, so if you want to change it to a multiply so it's much easier, you would just flip that fraction upside down and you'll change this to multiply and you'll get 1 over 2. Okay, so now you could have done all of this on the calculator as well, all right? So 24 multiplied by 1 is equal to 24. All over 5 times 2 is 10. So the answer is 24 over 10. Okay, so 4 and 4/5 over 2 is the same thing as 24 over 10. And your calculator will do that easily. We don't need to explain where that's coming from. Okay, so the next part of the question is, give me a minute and I'll just rub this out. Okay, so it says, solve the equation x squared minus 6x plus 4 is equal to 0. Give your answer in third form. Okay, now for me that's a hint that maybe the minus b is a good idea to use it here. So, because it says give your answer in third form. Now you could try and factorize this in other ways, but I'm just going to go with the minus b for the moment because it's the simplest. So let's remind ourselves, what's the minus b formula? Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all on top of 2a. Okay, and in order to use this, I need to figure out what a is, what b is, and what c is. So a here is the coefficient in front of the x squared, so it's 1. B is -6. C is 4. Okay, and now I'm going to plug in my values. So minus stays there, and a b in this case is -6, so we have 2 minuses beside each other. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is -6 again, to be squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 4, all on top of 2a's, which is 1. So let's do this. Minus by minus is plus. This becomes 6 plus or minus the square root of minus 6 multiplied by minus 6 is 36. Take away 4 times 1 is 4 times 4 is 16. All on top of 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so this becomes 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 take away 16, which is 20, all on top of 2. Okay, now I would then now simplify this square root of 20, okay? And you can do that in your calculator. There's a number of ways of doing it, but 6 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 5 all over, oh, sorry, now why did I write down 20 there? That's a mistake. All over 2. Okay, so square root of 20 simplifies to 2 root 5. Okay, now what I can see is I can see 2 will go into both the 6 and the 2. All right, so this will essentially be 3 plus or minus root 5. Okay, because the 2 will go into the 6 3 times and the 2 will go into the 2 once, okay, leaving 1 root 5. And that's your answer, okay, except what you would write down then is that x equals 3 plus root 5, or x equals 3 minus root 5. And that's your answer in terms of surd, okay, in surd form. Okay, give me a minute, I'll rub this out and go on to the next one. Okay, so this one says, write the following as a single fraction in its simplest form. And we have two fractions that are subtracted from each other. Okay, now if I did an example of this for you not too long ago where I said 1/2 subtract a third. Okay, what do? I go 2 by 3 is 6. How many times does 2 fit into 6? It goes in 3 times. How many times does 3 go into 6? It goes in twice. Okay, now you need to recap this if you're not sure what I'm doing. 3 take away 2 all over 6 is equal to 1 over 6. So 1/2 take away a third is equal to 1/6. Okay, so I'm going to do this question exactly the same as I would do simple subtraction of fractions. And that is, I'm going to find a base common denominator. 2 by 5 is 10. So my base common denominator here is 10. How many times does 2 fit into 10? It goes in 5 times, and I'm going to multiply 5 by that. 5 times 2x minus the 3. I'll ask myself, how many times does 5 fit into 10? It goes in twice. And I'll multiply 2 by the 4x minus the 7. And I'll put my subtraction sign in the middle. Now I'll simplify out by multiplying. 5 times 2 is 10x. 5 times 3 is negative 15. 2 times 4 is negative 8x. And 2 times minus 7 is plus 14. Be careful with your signs here. Okay? And that all sits on top of 10. So 10x take away 8x's. Well, now what I'm doing is I'm doing the like terms. So the x's will simplify and the numbers will simplify. 10x take away 8x is 2x's. And minus 15 plus 14 is minus 1. All of that sits on top of 10. Now, and I look for any simplification if I can find it. So will 10 go into that and simplify? And it won't. So I have now answered the question. Write the following as a single fraction in its simplest form. So here is this fraction converted into a single fraction, and it is as simple as it can get. There is no more simplification. Okay, so again, any questions in the chat? Thanks.